Welcome. Tonight I have gathered a lot of anger. Wolf terminology reclaimed from cringy masculinity influencers, and a chewed up character sheet so I can summon for you character creation for Werewolf the Apocalypse 5th edition. In this video, we're going to cover everything you need to know to make your very own guru. This will be in a slightly different order than the book suggests. I believe it's most useful and interesting to come up with your character concept and then fill in your dots to sort of reflect and enforce that concept you've come up with. You can always adjust as you go and make changes as needed. And if you're making a character for this game, I assume you want to play this game. And if you don't have anyone to play with, I'll play with you. You just got to find me on startplaying.games. Look up someone's stories. See if we got some werewolf going on and hop on in. And if we don't, you can always reach out and maybe I'll do it just for you and a few of your closest acquaintances or friends or pack. I don't know. I'll do it. So yeah, let's make a guru. First things first, you want to come up with your basic character concept. What excites you about the game and an idea of a character you'd like to play. Remember that the guru sort of exists in multiple worlds, both the spiritual and the physical. Yet in all of the worlds, they are either fear or opposed by multiple entities in each. This means that your werewolf is really going to rely on their fellow werewolves and most importantly, their pack. Just like a lone guru is sort of doomed in one way or another, you should keep your fellow packmates in mind when creating your character. That's your fellow players. I think it's interesting and worthwhile to think about who your character was before the first change, before they transformed into a guru. But also, you should note that in this game, most guru don't hold on to the majority of their previous life. Once your eyes have been open and you've become aware that you're now in the middle of an apocalyptic war for very existence as you know it, your old job and hobbies and things like that just don't seem quite as important anymore. It's still possible to live a double life, of course, but most gurus sort of live on the fringes of society and really rely on their pack and other guru for most social needs. Though it's important, and we'll get to it later with Touchstones, so hold on to just enough to kind of remember what you're fighting for and to keep you grounded a little bit. Now the book tells us that guru fight to take back what has been lost. They build their legend, they explore the mysteries of the spirit world, and they look out for others of their kind. So really think about sort of these core concepts when you're making your character and what their views are on each of these things. If you're looking for inspiration on what sort of character to make to fit into the setting, I suggest looking through the tribes and the auspices. A lot of them have examples and archetypes and suggested sort of temperaments and personality traits and callings that are associated with those specific things. You can use those to really build your character in a way that is ingrained in the setting already. Then on the character sheet, you're just going to kind of give a quick description of what this concept is to sort of remind you. It could be anything from a glory-seeking warrior, a drug-addled shaman, reluctant noble with a bomb, just sort of whatever. That little section is really for you. Some things to avoid when making a character for this setting is a lot of people are drawn to the lone wolf. In a literal sense here, a lone wolf is pretty much useless. The war for Gaia is going to require everyone working together. And even then, it's going to be tough. So don't make a character that is extremely just isolated or apathetic. The whole idea is there's a call to action here. And if you're playing a character who's like, well, I don't care about this, convince me why I should do this, that's just really not in the spirit of the game. And not only is just annoying in any game, really, but kind of goes against the lore here. On the other side of that, you get to play a werewolf, so you're going to be able to be really dangerous and cool and murder all sorts of things, and that's encouraged. But also just straight murder everything just for the sake of murdering it, it's going to have consequences as well. There's built-in things actually in this game, Harano and Hoglos, that your character will fall into. You can lose your character by being too apathetic or too mindlessly violent, actually. Think about your character's first change. This is when your character first transformed into a werewolf or a guru. Typically, this means they transformed into the Krynos, the war form, and they went into a frenzy and likely destroyed or harmed something. This could have been a good thing, in an act of self-preservation, or perhaps it was collateral damage. Either way, this is sort of a pivotal moment in your character's life. Some guru this just happened to, and they suddenly were plunged into this world and had this awakening that they understand that the state of the world and they have the ability to enact change on it. Others were sort of chosen. There's things called kin seekers. Some werewolves can tell in one way or another if someone has that wolf spirit in them, and they might actually guide them, and they might have sort of helped push along that first change and then been there to mentor them through the process afterwards. First change can happen at any time in a person's life. It just always happens after the age of maturity. Your character can also be wolf-born. This is a more rare instance of when your original form is actually a wolf, and you still transformed into a werewolf, but now you can also be human. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of interesting and kind of difficult role play that comes with adjusting to that world. But if that's something you're interested in, that's absolutely an option. And think about your packs. Think about your fellow players and what sort of guru they're making, and your pact concept, what sort of purpose or calling you think your pack is going to be driven to. And that purpose can, of course, change throughout the game. Also, packs typically have a pack leader, which has different responsibilities depending on the pack. Also isn't necessarily a permanent thing, but it's an interesting thing to think about, consider when making your characters. For your name, most Geru actually choose a new name to sort of go with their new life. Sometimes these are bestowed upon them by other Geru, and a lot of times they choose these for themselves. Mostly because it'd be kind of weird running around as a werewolf called like Martin or something like that. No offense to my Martins out there. So yeah, think of a fun, cool werewolf name to go with your character there. Chronicle is going to be just sort of the name of the chronicle, the story. The storyteller might have a name for it, or just put whatever there. If you're playing so much werewolf where you gotta write the chronicle names and know what game you're playing, then I envy you, honestly. Then there's Auspice. So Auspice is determined by whatever lunar phase there was the night of your first change. An Auspice also sort of indicates the role you're going to take in Guru society. This kind of can be reflected in your general temperament, what role you'll play in your pack, and your responsibilities. If this was a different tabletop role-playing game, this kind of could be considered your class, though much less restrictive. There are 5 different auspices to choose. There's Ragabash, they question authority, they challenge unexamined traditions, they ridicule that which deserves it. There's a Thurge, which are the mystics, the ones who understand and develop relationship with spirits and have a interest in the Umbra, or the spirit world. There's the Philodox, which preserve and interpret customs and traditions in Guru society. They also pass judgment on other Guru based on their history and rules. There's the Galliards, which seek to inspire other Geru. They're the ones who know and tell the legends and try to honor really exemplary examples of Guru in their society. And there's the Aron, which are the warriors, the ones who just tackle obstacles head on and challenge any enemies of the Guru. Then there's your tribe. Your tribe also sort of gives a general idea of an archetype you might fall into in Guru society. Tribes are different sort of subcultures of Guru that are guided by different patron spirits. So whatever tribe you pick, that will also reflect what spirit you fill in. All the tribes serve Gaia, but in different ways. The tribes have different outlooks that are influenced by their spirits. They sort of will determine a specific worldview or call to action associated with their tribe. And while the tribes share a lot of certain beliefs and culture, that doesn't mean there's not infighting. A tribe is not one monolithic entity by any means. Do a quick run through on the tribes for you. There's the Black Furies, which oppose injustice and seek to correct it, often through violent escalation. Their patron spirit is the Gorgon. There's the Bone Gnawers. They hide in plain sight. They discover secrets to try to further their goals. Their patron spirit is the Rat. There's the Children of Gaia, which seek to solve mysteries, specifically ones involved with the Umbra and spirit world and its relation to Gaia. Their patron spirit is the Unicorn. Gale Stalkers are the hunters, the trackers, the survivors. Their patron spirit is the North Wind. The Ghost Council seeks sort of untraditional methods to accomplish their goals, such as subterfuge and using their enemies' weaknesses against them. Their patron spirit is the Horned Serpent. Glasswalkers actually develop technology. They work with modern spirits involved in these inventions. Their patron spirit is the Spider. Heart Wardens seek to expand and cultivate territory so they can act as arbitrators and offer hospitality to other Geru. Their patron spirit is the Stag. Red Talons, they seek to protect the weak and protect places from unjust encroachment. Their patron spirit is the Griffin. Shadow Lords, they value might over everything else. They believe in any means necessary to accomplish their goals. Their patron spirit is Thunder. Silent Striders are nomadic. They're able to sort of adapt and learn from other cultures as well as blend in from them so they can share and learn information. Their patron spirit is the Owl. The Silver Fangs see themselves as sort of the aristocracy among the Geru. They seek to lead and inspire others. Their patron spirit is the Falcon. There are other tribes out there where they're considered wayward or lost in their own way and not part of the proper Geru nation. And most packs will consist of multiple tribes and auspices. So you don't have to worry about all being in the same category. But also, you're certainly allowed to share some of these backgrounds as well. Touchstones. These are humans, essentially, that you'll choose from your backstory, that you want to be involved in the story, and they represent things that connect you to humanity. Sort of, they have important ideals that remind you of what you're fighting for. This is to help sort of anchor your character and help balance the otherwise constant just rage and despair they might feel. So in game terms, these are mortals that should have no understanding or awareness of the supernatural. They shouldn't know what you are as a Geru. These are important personal relationships that you have. And these could be one-sided. This person, this touchstone, could be very important to you. That doesn't mean you're necessarily important to them. It's suggested that players have 1 to 3 touchstones. Your storyteller should tell you how many they're looking for your particular chronicle. This is a bit more complicated if you're wolf-born, but the book just suggests you can have a wolf as a touchstone, but probably no more than 1. Touchstones also have mechanical benefits. You can spend time with your touchstone to have a few different things happen. You can reduce your rage. You can heal a point of aggravated willpower damage. You can also move 1 mark of Hirano or Hoglos from one to the other. There's also risk to having a touchstone. If something happens to them, that's a good way to provoke a frenzy. And if a touchstone is harmed or killed or something really bad happens to them as a result of your own actions, you can get a automatic point of Hirano or Hoglos from that. Basically, your touchstone is saying, hey, here's some NPCs from my backstory or that are important to my character, and here you go, storyteller, use these against me, and I'm also going to try to protect them. Okay, let's move on to traits. So assigning your traits. There's no character levels in a World of Darkness game. Your attributes, your skills, and your gifts essentially determine what your character, what your werewolf can do. You can gain new advantages and learn new gifts, but as far as like the attributes and skills, what you see here on the character sheet is what you're going to be working with the entire game. As you gain experience, you can spend that experience to improve any of these things. Basically, you put ranks or dots into any of these traits. The more you have, the better you are at it. Each dot represents a die in your dice pool, so Again, the more dots you have, the more dice you have to roll when using those traits. Attributes. These are your base stats. You're going to use your attributes in most roles in the game. Most things require an attribute roll paired with a skill to make your dice pool. Attributes and skills are categorized into physical, social, and mental. These all range from 1 to 5 dots. So when you're creating your character, you're going to start with 1 attribute at 4, 3 attributes at 3, 4 attributes at 2, and 1 at 1. How I suggest to do this is decide what your character's best at. You're going to put that attribute at 4 dots. Then you want to decide what you're worst at, what your biggest weakness is. Put that attribute at 1 dot. Then you pick the 3 next most important that you're skilled at. You're going to put 3 dots in each of those. Then there should be 4 remaining attributes. Those you'll put 2 dots in each. Strength, this is raw physical strength. It's how hard you hit, how much you lift, just how much raw physical power your body possesses. Dexterity, this is your agility, your speed, your fine motor control, and just overall swiftness. Stamina, this is your physical fortitude and resistance. This affects health. Charisma, this is your power personality, your overall charm and appeal as a person. Manipulation, this is how good you are at changing other people's views, using trickery, seduction, lies, and things of that sort. Composure, this is your ability to remain calm, stay in control of your emotions, and put others at ease. This combines with resolve for your willpower. Intelligence, this is your measurement of your learned knowledge and how you can apply that knowledge and ability to reason. Wits, this is quick thinking. This is reactive processing, sudden decisions. This is often paired with awareness to make what's similar to a perception check, if you're familiar with that. Resolve, this is your focus, your concentration, your determination, your mental fortitude. This pairs with composure to make up your willpower. Now, it's important to note, some of these will affect your trackers. Stamina will determine how much health you have on your health tracker. Your total health is going to be your stamina rating plus 3. So if you have 3 stamina, that means you have 6 health. Your willpower is determined by your composure plus resolve rating. When you regain willpower, which usually happens at the beginning of a session, you're also going to regain your total equal to your composure or resolve, whichever is highest. It also means if you want to spend experience points to raise any of these attributes, that will raise the trackers that they affect as well. Health, this is your physical state. This is how much damage you could take, your capacity to withstand punishment. As we said, your total will equal your stamina plus 3. While everything else, you'll fill these dots left to right, stamina and willpower, among some others we'll get to later, you actually fill in right to left. So it's your remaining boxes, that's your actual score, not what's filled in. So if your health is 6, that means you're going to fill in the other boxes you don't need. And as you take damage, you'll mark these empty boxes to show that you're taking damage. The little box beneath it with Krynos, whenever you turn into your Krynos form, your war form, you automatically get 4 extra boxes of health. So you'll mark those first when you take damage in that form. Willpower. This is your mental competence, your stability, your confidence. Your total willpower is equal to your composure plus resolve. And like health, it's the number of blank boxes that determines how much willpower you have. As you spend willpower or take willpower damage, you'll mark those on the blank boxes. Willpower is important for a number of reasons, so it's good to keep in mind. You can spend this to re-roll up to 3 dice. You'll roll your willpower when you're resisting different mental effects, and it also affects you being able to keep your cool and not go into a frenzy, among other things. Skills. So these are used to just represent how competent you are in specific areas. Or your attributes are kind of broad talents you have. These are the specific applications of those talents. As I said, most roles will be one of these skills paired with one of your attributes. Now, if you don't have a skill in something, that doesn't mean you can't do the thing. It just means you're probably going to be rolling just the attribute instead of extra dice for your skill. There's 3 different types of skill distributions you can choose. You can do Jack of all trades. This gives you a wide set of skills, but not as many dots in them. You'll take 1 skill at 3, 8 skills at 2, and 10 skills at 1. There's balanced, which is As implied, it's a mix of number of skills and dots in them. This will give you 3 skills at 3 dots, 5 at 2, and 7 at 1. Then the Specialist, which is the lowest number of total skills, but more dots than what you do have. This gives you 1 skill at 4 dots, 3 at 3, 3 at 2, and 3 at 1. Now there's lots of skills, as you can see. Most are self-explanatory, but I'll try to briefly go through all of them. Athletics, this is your aptitude for physical feats such as running, climbing, jumping. It's typically used for roles to dodge attacks as well. There's Brawl, this is fighting unarmed and with natural weapons. Teeth and claws use Brawl, so this will probably be used a lot in a werewolf game. Craft is the ability to make things. This covers everything from arts and crafts to functional artisanry. Driving is how good you are at driving. It's assumed that adult humans can drive. You don't have to roll this skill every time you get behind the wheel. It's used more for like racing, getaways, defensive driving, things like that. Firearms, this covers most things with a trigger, as well as archery. Make a note that this is usually paired with composure and not dexterity, as a lot of people assume. Larceny involves anything with thieving, fraud, security systems such as lockpicking, deactivating alarms, forgery, and the like. Melee is anything that involves wielding a weapon that isn't a projectile, pretty much falls under melee. Stealth, being sneaky, hiding, stalking, spying, blending in, things like that. Survival is the ability to sort of navigate the natural world. Things like tracking, navigation, identification, even like building shelters and stuff and identifying things, outdoorsy stuff. Animal ken is how good you are at interacting with animals. Without this skill, most creatures actually avoid the guru, especially if they're in any of their predator forms. Etiquette, this is the understanding and adapting to social cues and customs and specific cultures. Insight is the ability to read body language and subtle cues to tell people's intentions, and you could use this to tell if someone's lying. Intimidation, so it's threatening, bullying, or just strong-arming to get your way. Leadership is the ability to lead others, to boost their morale, or command respect of a group. This can also sometimes work with Renown if you're leading other guru. Performance, this is just any talent in a range of the arts, from singing to storytelling, even stand-up. When you take this skill, you get a free specialty in it, as some rites rely on strong performances as well. Persuasion, you're going to use this to convince others to do what you want, but using like honest means, using your own emotions, your own reason, and appealing to others' views and sensibilities. This is usually paired with charisma. Streetwise, these are street skills and knowledge, such as like navigating certain subcultures and activities, typically associated with like criminality or the underworld. Subterfuge, this is lying, tricking, seducing, imitation. This is usually paired with manipulation. Academics, this is a formal understanding and familiarity with higher education fields, typically within like the humanities or the liberal arts. You get a free specialty when you take this skill. Awareness, this is your perception, your ability to notice things. A common role is a wits awareness role, is sort of your perception to see what you can see or notice. Finance, the understanding of economics, of markets, being able to appraise things, and just general business savvy. Investigation, this is finding and interpreting clues to sort of better understand the unknown and connecting dots and mysteries. Medicine, this could be used to identify causes of harm and physical well-being, as well as it could be used to treat wounds. Cult, this is knowledge of the supernatural world and mystical practices. Politics, the understanding of like formal political systems, governments, as well as like diplomacy and political tactics. This can include human or guru society. Science, covers everything from like formally scientific and whatever your knowledge of these fields might be. You get a free specialty when you take this skill. Technology is the ability and knowledge of modern technology, most likely used with roles involving computers and things like that. Specialty. So after you've assigned your dots and your skills, you will choose one specialty. This is a specific aspect of the skill that you really exceed in. When you roll with the skill and that action is applicable to your specialty, you'll get 1 bonus dice to that dice pool. Now there's examples in the book under each skill, some specialties you can have, but you can also just make one up and make sure it's approved with the storyteller. These should be specific and usable in special circumstances and not so broad that you're pretty much using your specialty every time you roll that skill. So you'll choose one specialty that you get to assign for free to any of your skills. Then you also get a free specialty if you have any dots in any of the following skills: academics, craft, performances, and science. Now you can have multiple specialties in a single skill, but only one can be applicable at a time for a dice pool. Then we have advantages. These are backgrounds, merits, and flaws. These help sort of round the character out while also attaching them to specific game mechanics. These are also represented with dots, but you typically won't roll with these, and you shouldn't really be able to permanently lose a background, but there's certain actions you could take or story things could happen that might make you temporarily not have access to them, but you should have the opportunity to get them back. Some of these have a ranking from 1 to 5, depending on how good or bad they are, but a lot of them have like a static number of dots associated with them. Now these can involve everything from this, your looks. You can have a beautiful merit, so you get bonuses on social dice. To start with, a talisman could be an advantage you choose. Lore sheets also fall under these, which are things that give you different mechanical benefits attached to specific lore in the game. Typically, you want to run these by your storyteller first as you choose them, just to make sure they're actually applicable in the chronicle. So for advantages, you're going to be taking 7 dots in advantages. That means merits and backgrounds, and 2 points in flaws, which are flaws. There's also background flaws. Renown. This kind of represents how your character embodies being a guru. This is sort of your reputation and your legend. Other guru and even spirits will be able to recognize and treat you accordingly to your renown. The 3 types are glory, honor, and wisdom. Glory upholds the bold, the resolute, and sort of action-focused deeds. Honor is about your righteousness, your respect, sticking to your principles. Wisdom involves cleverness, caution, sensibility. You're going to take 2 dots in a renown associated with your tribe. So whichever tribe you chose will determine which area of renown you start with 2 dots in. And then you get a dot that you can put in either one of the other ones. It's up to you. Not only does renown have sort of role play implications, the gifts are also attached to certain types of renown. So you'll sort of want to coordinate which renown you want to be strong in, determines what sort of gifts are available to you, or that you'll have better dice pools to use for them. Next, we'll get into gifts. Gifts are the powers and abilities that you have granted to you by spirits. These are sort of your magic. You use rage to fuel a lot of these, or willpower. Learning gifts has different prerequisites. There's native gifts, which all guru can learn. Others are exclusive to certain auspices or tribes, and a lot of them have different renown requirements. It'll be your total renown, usually, which means all the 3 types added up determines what you can get. You start with 3 gifts. You're going to choose 1 native gift, 1 auspice gift, and 1 tribe gift. And again, make sure you pick gifts that work with your renown. So if you see a gift you really like and realize it doesn't at all work with what you have for renown, now's the time to maybe change it up. Rites. These are special sort of social ceremonies that are really important to Geru culture. Not only do these have different roleplay implications and lore implications, they also have mechanical benefits. When you start, you will be choosing 1 rite. Make sure you choose a rite that you have the skills to reflect you using it effectively. In closing, that's it. Follow those instructions, put those dots in those places, and you've just made your character. Now remember, you're going to be earning experience points, so you can always add dots to any of these things. As your renown grows, that gives you access to more gifts as well. Those are the only things that are kind of blocked off from you at the beginning. Otherwise, you can immediately start spending experience as you get them to raise any of your traits, and maybe even buying backgrounds and advantages and things like that. And most importantly, work with your fellow players and your storyteller to come up with a cool pack concept. Make sure your characters work with each other or make some interesting dynamics. And while you don't all want to be so opposed where it's just going to be a struggle to accomplish anything, It also is kind of boring if everyone ends up with the same roles and archetypes, because then you don't really give each other a chance to shine like you would if you had your specialties. So just keep all those things in mind. Otherwise, you're set. Go take your wolf. Get out there. Fight. Win that war for Gaia. Or die trying. For now, this chapter is closed. Our ritual must end. Thank you for letting me in. And never forget, close the door.